1959, in the heart of the Cold War between the United States and the Soviet Union. The country, indeed the world, lived in fear of nuclear annihilation. You walk into your class and the teacher announces that you'll be watching a movie. A murmur of excitement comes around the room. You soon realize that this film is not what you anticipated. It is a government-made film about the United States' conflict with the Soviet Union. It is also about what to do in the case of a nuclear attack. Duck and cover was the term used. It constituted crouching on the ground underneath your desk or table, although in reality this technique would not have helped much. This may sound like a depressing experience for you and me. However, during the Cold War, nuclear doom was a terrifying reality. Though the Cold War has ended, nuclear weapons are still a very real and very deadly threat. Nuclear weapons are unjustified because they harm innocent civilians, give certain countries too much power, and can destroy the planet. An international team, including Canadians, British, Americans, and displaced European scientists fleeing the Nazis, created the first nuclear weapons. The project was top secret, codenamed the Manhattan Project, but the first test was conducted far from New York, in Alamogordo, New Mexico. The project was started in fear that Nazi Germany would develop nuclear weapons first. Nuclear weapons work when nuclei are struck with rapidly moving ions. They split in half. This releases more ions, which hit more nuclei, which release more ions. This process keeps going on in a chain reaction. In order to sustain this sort of chain reaction, a significant amount of nuclear material is needed. In the bombing of Hiroshima, 141 pounds of enriched uranium was used. However, modern warheads can weigh almost twice that. The United States' Peacekeeper missile could contain 10 separate nuclear weapons that could each hit different targets. Nuclear weapons harm innocent civilians whose only crime is living in the country where the nuclear weapon hits. Death by nuclear weapons is not a new thing, but it is certainly the worst weapon known to humankind. In the 1945 bombing of Hiroshima, over 70,000 people were killed immediately, and another 70,000 died by the end of the year from radiation and injury. There were also those who died years later from cancer. Hiroshima was chosen as the first target because the Second Army, the Chokugu Regional Army, and the Army Marine Corps all had their headquarters there. Not only can nuclear weapons destroy thousands, even millions of people, but they do it in gruesome and terrible ways. Near the end of World War II, Jean Leonard was a sailor aboard the hospital ship USS Haven. He was asked to go ashore and bring back a soil sample from Nagasaki after the bombing. Coming over a hill, he, quote, encountered a scene of immense devastation stretching for miles on all sides. It was awesome and frightening, end quote. As he walked through the ruins, he spotted a human ribcage. It had no arms, no legs, and no head. All else that remained were little bits of flesh hanging off. On his return to the ship, his clothes were incinerated, and he was told to stay in the shower for as long as he wanted. Leonard was lucky. He did not stay in the effective area long enough to be hurt. Nuclear weapons create radioactive material, which if eaten, breathed, or even touched, can cause cancer and death. For many generations after the actual explosion, the site will be highly dangerous, a dead zone. Nuclear weapons could also cripple modern society through an effect called EMP, or electromagnetic pulse. EMP occurs when a nuclear weapon is detonated. The farther from the ground the weapon is detonated, the greater the affected area. EMP virtually destroys electric circuits, affecting everything electronic, from power generators to your cell phone. Even worse, hospitals, police stations, and fire brigades would all be crippled. Nuclear weapons give some countries too much power. The United States is the most powerful nation on Earth. This is not just because of our large, technologically superior army or our economic and political strength. It is because we have the largest and most advanced nuclear arsenal in the world. Countries that have nuclear weapons are the United States, Russia, France, United Kingdom, China, India, Pakistan, and Canada. Israel, North Korea, and Iran are all suspected of having nuclear weapons, although they deny it. South Africa had developed nuclear weapons but decided to renounce them, the only country to independently do so. A wise choice. Many of these above countries have alliances and agreements with one another, forming powerful and terrifying bonds. A statement released by the South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation states, quote, "We, the peoples of South Asia, are dismayed and alarmed at the Indian and Pakistani tests of May 1998. The decision of the two traditional rivals to build and deploy nuclear weapons has put at risk the survival of not only the peoples of India and Pakistan, but also the peoples of all the countries of South Asia. There can be no justification for the initial nuclear tests by India or the retaliatory tests by Pakistan. No amount of provocation or perceived threat legitimizes the development, testing, proliferation, or use of nuclear weapons. Nuclear weapons are immoral weapons of mass destruction. It is a crime against humanity to even consider their use as an option." End quote. As not all countries represented in this statement have nuclear weapons, this does indeed give those that do an overwhelming military and political advantage. Nuclear weapons are obviously dangerous to begin with, but with quote-unquote two traditional rivals, both in possession of nuclear weapons, the situation worsens still. Since Israel is also rumored to have nuclear weapons, thus a yet more dangerous situation has developed. Israel and Pakistan have been quite unfriendly for decades. Yet another fear is that terrorist organizations such as Al-Qaeda will acquire nuclear weapons and launch them at the United States and allies. Nuclear weapons could destroy the world, a frightening prospect indeed. This could happen in several ways. Many scientists believe that the dust and debris thrown up from several nuclear detonations could block out the heat of the sun and create a mini ice age, often called nuclear winter. Any response to the injured would be extremely limited by the anti-electric effects of EMP. Another scenario would be the total annihilation of all life on Earth, and making the entire planet a dead planet. The world currently has at most 20,000 active nuclear weapons. However, there are more than that are inactive or partially dismantled. Even my grandfather, a well-educated college professor, did not file a pension as early as he could have, thinking that the world would be blown up and it wouldn't matter. He had fought in World War II and thought that the world was safe for a while. But then, beginning his career and starting a family, the Cold War and the subsequent arms race began. Proponents of nuclear weapons might argue that they help keep the peace because countries think twice about angering nuclear-armed nations. The Soviet Union and the United States did not engage in nuclear war because total mutual destruction was assured. Without the use of nuclear weapons, the United States would have had to invade the Japanese home islands during World War II. Casualties were expected to be extremely high. After Hiroshima and Nagasaki, Japan surrendered to the United States in less than a week. However, if nuclear war did in fact ensue, the death toll would be mind-bogglingly huge. Imagine if all the population of Russia and the United States, over almost 500 million people, were dead. That is 1 in every 12 people in the entire world. A single American nuclear submarine carries 192 nuclear weapons. There are 18 of these submarines. Just one is needed to wipe out 1/3 of Russia's population, 50 million people. The United States also has another 550 nuclear weapons hidden in secret silos, mostly in the western United States. Although they can keep the peace, what would happen when the peace breaks? Weapons are fired and the world has ended. Where are the benefits then? Nuclear weapons must be eliminated. They are immoral killers. They grant too much power to certain countries and could exterminate all life from the earth. In the 1968 film Planet of the Apes, a spaceship of 4 lands on a planet that the ship's computer says is Earth in the year 3978. The crew has been in a sort of hibernation for over 2,000 years. Eventually, just one astronaut remains alive. On the planet are humans, but the positions of man and ape seem reversed.